Hello and welcome to the March edition of the Salesforce Community Flowcast. I'm going to be taking you through some of the actions highlighted on Unofficial SF and other little tutorials and things scattered throughout the Flow HANA, as it were. So first up, we have the awesome set of actions provided by Alex Edelstein that integrate Flow with Slack. So one of the cool examples he uses here is a concept called swarming, where he essentially creates and spins up a Slack channel based off of, I think in this case it's a public group, all automated. So be sure to check this out if your company uses Slack. So last month I highlighted an action by Narinder Singh that allows you to upload custom metadata records with a CSV file. Well, not to be outdone, Jonathan Giuseppe created a nifty action that lets you create and update custom metadata records from within Flow without a CSV. So I actually highlighted a little video here on the article, but one of the main use cases for me would be a situation where you'd have, like a power user or something that's managing things like tax rates or tax mappings and things like that you may not want to give them full access to customized application, but you might feel comfortable giving access to a flow that could do that. So pretty cool action. Check out the article. Melody over at Salesforce Flowsome built a nifty little article that basically talks through some of the different governor limits that you might run into when building flows, and she does a good job of translating some of the different errors that might come up in the language that are given and then a translation into the English language, so to speak. So pretty helpful if you're new to governor limits. If your company uses Next Best Action, you may want to check this one out. Alex Edelstein put together a video that walks you through a nightly process that runs through all the accounts in the organization and basically creates recommendations for each account if it's applicable, and then surfaces those in another next best action on the user's home screen. So check this out if you guys use next best action. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. Narinder Singh has created a flow action that lets you get the value of a field dynamically. So if you're looking at a flow screen on the left, you're basically creating a dynamic way of specifying your API name, and then the code will basically spit out a value dynamically. Looks like he used this in a scenario where he was making an API call out via an external service. The Service Cloud team put out a series of blog posts on Medium that highlight some new features around OmniFlows and basically allowing you to do skill-based routing and addition of skills all from within Flow. So be sure to check this one out. This one is on the Salesforce roadmap. Perhaps one of my favorite actions is the Generate Collection report. And Jeremiah Dawn, a Salesforce MVP, recently made some additional changes to it that will allow you to show field labels instead of the API names as the column headers. And another nifty little thing he added was being able to display related parent fields as well. So you couldn't do that before, and this will make it even more valuable when you're doing things like rich text email sends and displaying this stuff on a flow screen. And what might be the coolest thing that come out of the community in March is the new FluxCard screen component. So one of the things that you can do is essentially specify a record collection as your input, and then then a bunch of Flow API names to be able to launch as subflows for each of those records. So Josh Damett and Karen Pant joined forces to create this one, and he goes into a little demo video here so you can see how it works. But highly recommended, lots of cool use cases here. So yet again, Josh Damett creates another component called Flow Carousel that lets you specify some image URLs, headers, and descriptions to create your typical carousel that you'd find on a web page, but instead embedded in Flow. Rockstar Eric Smith released the Validation Checker Flow action, which, as he describes, is a way to basically trap flow errors. So, your typical flow, you've got your fault path, which, that's usually going to generate some sort of error. Whereas this one, it is basically designed so that you can trap the error and not trigger an error. And so he has some examples here where he, shows a toast message, for example, if there is an error, and invites the person to try again. So lots of detail in this. So if you want to explore other ways of trapping errors and handling errors in your flows, I would definitely check this one out. Pretty easy to describe action here, or component in this case, is a copy to clipboard button that Eric Smith wrote that will basically just take any sort of input and copy whatever you specify as your input to the user's clipboard. For you flow masters and developers out there looking to do more with date time variables, there's a nifty series of actions called flow date time methods that basically bring in all the different methods that are available to the date time class in Apex, where you can do whatever you could possibly imagine around business hours and dates and times, where you basically specify your method, your date string that you're trying to manipulate, and some sort of increment, time zone. Essentially, it seems like whatever you would need from a date time perspective, this thing could handle. So check it out. And last but not least, Praxis Solutions has released an enhancement to the Salesforce Labs Enhanced Lightning Grid component that will basically let you launch flows in a modal from a list view or a rel. So if you've been wanting to get some flow action off of your related list, this would be the thing to check out. And that's all I got for the month of March. I will see you guys in May for the April edition of the Flowcast.